Hi, everybody. It's Kirsty. This is Two Peas in a Peggy podcast. Welcome back. I'm joined by the lovely Reina, who is actually over in the Netherlands at the moment. If you want to say hi, Reina, to everybody watching.
Hi, everybody.
Thank you so much for joining me back again on this podcast. Now, The Walking Dead is back. We are back. We're here to discuss the final season opening episode. I keep wanting to say the season finale, which is obviously not until we get to the end, but because it's the season, it really throws me. And I don't know about you in terms of feeling, because we had last season, we had those 6 extra episodes, didn't we, as kind of almost filler episodes, but they gave us a bit more insight. So it feels a bit odd because where we left season 10, before those additional episodes, I had to try and think back, what happened, because then we were with the characters, really, weren't we, learning more about them. So we're here to talk about episode 1, season 11, final season of The Walking Dead. Episode 1, ACHERON, because I found out that was how you pronounce it. It's Greek. It actually relates to a Greek river. Now, what was interesting when I looked into this is this particular river in mainland Greece was believed to have flowed through dark gorges, and there was some Greek mythology to it in ancient times that it flowed to Hades, which anybody that knows Greek mythology, that is the underworld. And I found that interesting. It's no surprise they probably titled the episode that way, because we know in the episode there is some kind of underworld element to it when they're underground. Now, I should have said at the beginning, as a disclaimer, spoiler alert, because we are going to be talking about this episode. So anybody that hasn't watched it, we will be revealing what happens. So you might want to check back later if that's the case. We don't want to spoil the fun for you. But for those of you who have watched it, please comment below and let us know your thoughts as well. So we'll dive right into it then, Reina, if you're happy with that.
Let's do it.
This episode, we had Crew A and we had Crew B. So let's focus on Crew B first. So we've got 4 of the survivors who are with the stormtroopers.
Stormtroopers, exactly.
They are with the stormtroopers. So we've got Yumiko, Ezekiel, Eugene. Eugene's still trying to find Stephanie, bless him. And Princess, who was a new character that we were introduced to as well last season. So they're being interviewed by the Commonwealth auditors, aren't they? And it seems like quite an arduous process. Why are they needing to know this information? There's a bit of intrigue and mystery to that, which is good because we want to know what's going on. But also, they're interviewed, there's other people there in these kind of cages, and then you hear the terms reprocessing and you think, what shit's going down here? This is a bit like, isn't it? So I don't know what your thoughts were on that when you were hearing.
My thoughts on that was actually, I don't know if you watched the show, but Westworld.
No, I haven't.
Where Stephen Ogg's in there. No, that's in The Walking Dead as Simon, of course, for people that might just jump into it and are not there yet. They are all robots, and they don't know that they're robots. But as soon as they get killed or whatever in that world, they are being fixed and remade and reset. So that made me think of that a little bit, because to me it felt like it's resetting their brain or something, like being brainwashed and resetting their brain and basically trying to make the perfect persons or like perfect people. Like I'm not sure what they're doing, but to me it sounds that it's not like a very good thing. Like, why would you want to reprocess people? Like, were people not a resource according to Negan? Like,
actually, oh yeah, definitely. And actually they were repeating some of the questions, weren't they? That's what it felt like.
I found it weird because why would you, like, the one question that stood out for me was, which obviously it made me laugh, which was Eugene's answer. But when they were asking about the postal code and Eugene was like, oh, when I was in this year, it was like that and that. I was like, how would you even know? Like, how, bro? Just shut up. But why would you want to know like that? Like, asking what people's professions were. We've seen that before in several other seasons, like Diana from Alexandria did that before. Was it Diana? What her name was? I think so.
Yeah, I
Um,
can't name, but yeah.
we've seen people do that before. Like, what did you do before the world went to shit?
Yes.
So that was normal to me, especially for a new community. What I did was a little bit curious about is the fact that the orange stormtrooper was there the whole time. Plus the fact that she was saying she was from Commonwealth, because if we all remember, is that Maggie left with Georgie, who was the leader of the Commonwealth, which that makes me think things. If I will get into that later, but yeah, why do you want to know what their parents did? Why do you want to know where Princess made her first $2 at? Like, what's the point in that? Why do we need to know? It's like, because the world how it is there at the moment, like, why would it be relevant to know? Because they can't go back to that. Like, it's to give them certain jobs in their community, could be possible, then I get it. But I mean, you don't need a lawyer. There's barely any people, so why would you need a lawyer or a zookeeper? Because there ain't none animals.
Exactly. Yeah.
So that was a bit strange, and also because Ezekiel was barely laughing, and he was like, "Why the hell do you want to know this shit?" Like, he was like, "I'm not afraid of you guys, and this doesn't make any sense," and I agreed with him. And the woman, I don't remember what her name was, but the one who was asking the questions, she kept talking in like one certain tone constantly. It would give me anxiety. She wouldn't go like, like, nah, 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 nah. And I was like, she looked like a robot. The way she was acting, talking, no, I don't trust them.
Yeah, I don't either. And it was interesting. I agree completely with what you said, because we already know that. We know they had lives, but it was a bit of a reminder that, okay, they have had lives before, and where we've kind of come from the beginning of the season, which we were talking about just before recording the podcast. But yeah, it's a bit of a reminder, but maybe unnecessary, because we already know. And it is that thing of, why do they want to know? What are they going to do with them? But of course, when they managed to escape, and it took me a while to cotton on to the fact that two of them were
I did too. I didn't know until they took the helmets off. I was like, oh wait, they're in the suits. How did they get the suits? Which that was actually obviously because Princess was laughing and knew all their names. And I was like, how do you know that? Is this one of your made up stories in your head again? Like when she was like thinking Ezekiel was with her when she wasn't, or when he wasn't. So I was like, is she making it up? Is it real? Because with her, I've not quite figured out. Like, it looks like she's kind of a little bit paranoid. But I think because they were all laughing at the table when she's like, oh yeah, and they secretly have sex together. They all started laughing. So I think that they used what she said about, like, when the other one leaves, that one leaves 5 minutes behind her. So I think they took them. I think that was the hint of how they get the suits. What I found interesting at that point is the wallboard with the pictures, and Yumiko saw her sister's call on there.
Yes.
Is her sister in there, or is it past? That's what I'm actually curious about.
It is a curious thing, and of course, is she going to stay? Are the others going to persuade her to go? Are they going to escape anyway, or are they going? It's one of those things. It has left a bit of a hook, hasn't it, for the next episode? Which of course will be part 2, of ACHERON. But yeah, I also noticed, as well as that wall of photos, the bin full of money.
Yeah, and they were all crossed. They all had black crosses over it. So I think money is something that they don't use down there. So I think they kind of want everyone to be equal without any royalties and stuff like that. But I mean, I wish I had that bunch of money.
I know.
Looked like I had a lot of money in there.
But then I suppose you realise, okay, it is apocalyptic times, and really they're, wanting food, they're wanting other things, but it's watching it as a viewer and you think, wow, that's a lot of money to just be in a bin, basically.
I did expect Princess to take her $2 bill out, but she didn't.
Yes, but she didn't.
I thought she was going to, because she was looking at it, and I was like, she's going to grab it back.
Yeah.
But
no,
she
absolutely.
didn't.
So we'll see what happens with those. Now, moving on to Crew A, which is the kind of majority of the group, I would say. There's still a few sort of stragglers, like we don't really know where Connie's ended up yet, do we? That's obviously going to come up. She's with that weird guy that took her, if you remember. Because you remember that episode when she kind of woke up, but it was almost, is she a walker or not? And then that guy came and sort of swooped in and rescued her, but he was the one that was on that island, wasn't he? I can't think of his name, but
Sergio, wasn't it?
Yeah, something like that. Anyway, so that's going to be, that's
the one that made her all paranoid and drugged her, and that weird dude.
That's the one. Yeah, that's the one.
I didn't like him neither. There's a lot of characters I don't like.
yeah. The list is growing. So Crew A, the kind of, the majority of them. So they're at this army base, army hangar, and they're obviously scavenging for food. So we kind of on that mission, nothing that we've not seen before on other episodes. But of course, who can forget the CGI Starry Night backdrop? Because I have to say that I love The Walking Dead, but there was a bit of CGI there, I think.
There was, but there was also one other interesting aspect in that moment of them getting the food that I want to address, is something we've not ever seen before. And I'm just going to ask it to you. Since when do walkers sleep? I thought they were dead. They don't need no sleep. They were sleeping.
That is a good point, actually.
They were having their eyes closed. Since when? Any other season except for the start did walkers have eyelids? That did not make any sense at all. That was the weirdest thing ever.
That's a very good.
First walker we seen opening up their eyes, his eyes.
Yeah.
I am really sorry, Greg Nicotero, if you ever watch this, but that one was really badly done. It was
you could see
it. That was like, okay, that did not sell me at all. But when do they sleep? That was quite interesting because we've never seen that in any season before, because they're always walking or standing still, but we've never seen them sleep before. So when Kelly said to Maggie they're sleeping, I was like, since when? Like, how do they have the capacity that they need sleep as they're brain dead?
Yeah.
Because you need sleep to get your brains to work.
Yeah.
So and they're obviously brain dead. So that one didn't get me at all. I was like, this is dumb.
Yeah. No, exactly. Yeah.
Then what else?
Well, when they kind of were pulling the supplies up, and then it was kind of, is that going to fall? One of those tense moments, but then it's okay. But no, bit of blood from Daryl drops, and that's it. Wakes up the sleeping zombie, and then the rest of them. Yeah,
I thought the bag was going to drop, or some of the supplies were falling out. I did not expect it to be a drop of blood.
No.
Also, what I thought was really weird is that you already see Carol looking at that gun, that she's going to grab that, and she took that gun. Also, that one was empty, but she took the other one. What I found weird is they spent so many ammo on them walkers down there, like arrows.
Yes.
And they killed a lot of them. And my husband said I would have just killed them all, get my ammunition back, especially the arrows, because where are you going to find arrows? And then Carol just only brings back Daryl's knives. And of course, Carol is the one that needs to stay at last and gets in trouble. I'm like, yep, that's Carol. It's like, I don't know. Carol for me is what they have done with her in the past seasons. Is I don't like her as much anymore. She used to be such a power woman, and this is what I said in another podcast I did too. She was such a icon to look up at as a woman, as a female. Carol was coming from an abusive background, becoming this power girl, this super woman, and then she just became a paranoid drug addict.
I know, the change in her.
I don't like the change. I do not think they did her justice with that.
Yeah.
Yeah, and Magda, we didn't see enough of that group that they joined a couple of seasons ago with Luke,
Yeah.
Magda, Yumiko, Connie, and Kelly to know enough about them. They've been brought in really fast and they've been a part of the group really fast, but what do we actually know about them? Because we don't know a lot about them. Speaking of Connie, we got teased last season that she was still alive.
Mm-hmm.
But where is she at?
Where is
Are
she?
we gonna see her again? And then with those 6 additional episodes to Leah, which I have heard a very interesting theory about that from one of my Italy friends saying it's a female version of Daryl and it's a made-up character in Daryl's head. She's not real.
Interesting.
Because she's wearing the same clothes, has a crossbow. And why would she give her dog to him out of nowhere? So I think he might be onto something and that the woman actually doesn't exist. I don't know.
We will see on that. But
yeah, they got out of there. They had supplies. And then Father Gabriel comes around. He says, we only have enough for a week. Clearly you're doing something wrong, Father Gabriel. Not going to complain. But that's a lot of food that you guys just got out of there.
Yeah, definitely.
Stop adding people to your community. I know you want to save everybody, but you kind of sound like Negan now.
Yeah. When I must admit, when they kind of returned back to Alexandria, what I found just from me watching it, I don't know if you did, but just from me, it was that contrast of Alexandria to what it was like when they first stumbled across it in season 5. I know a lot of shit's gone down there, obviously, but it was just contrast really, and it just felt broken, broken community.
I feel you, and I actually said that at my husband too when we had that image of what it looks like now, that I said to Rob, my husband, I said, wow, this is all that's left of Hilltop. Like, it used to be such a strong community, although it was by the hands of Gregory, but there is a thing that was said, and I can't remember what season, but it is right. Everything that our heroes go to burns down to the ground. It happened with every community. So it's sad to see because they had everything, and now they're basically back to square one, and they look like Sanctuary where nothing will ever grow.
Yes.
And then Maggie coming in. And Negan steps out of the house, and we see them look at each other.
The face off. I wrote that down. The face off. Yeah.
Then you instantly get murdered. Well, I actually get instantly murder attacks to get Maggie because I do not look like the way she looks at him at all. Like he's like not liking her. We all know why.
Yes.
But just that stare off, it's not sitting right with me. I'm telling you, it's not okay. Don't touch Negan, okay?
And it kind of set the tone for the rest of the episode between them, didn't it? That face off really did set the tone.
Yeah, and that's how we ended. That's how we ended last episode of the last season as well, that they looked at Sarah again. That was the last thing in the last episode of last season.
Yeah.
That was again that stare off. And now she started basically again with the same stare off. Clearly, Maggie's still not forgotten, which I find weird because when Negan was in prison and Maggie visited him, she said that she wasn't going to kill him because he was already dead inside. I don't know if you remember that.
Yeah.
And it kind of looked like it was not really like I forgive you kind of thing, but she had so many opportunities to get him killed when everybody would still stand behind her to do it.
Yes.
So what she's now doing, even though that Carol told her in also last episode of last season that Negan basically saved them from Alpha. It didn't bother her at all. She was like, whatever, I'm still mad at him kind of thing. I was by that stare off also really surprised to see that he actually joined that group on when they were walking in the rain, I did not expect that they would take him until
Yes.
we found out that Negan was the only one who knew the road.
Yeah. Oh yeah, because she was quick to ask him, about are we on the right track or whatever.
Yeah, because she said we need him, because Negan said, I'm not going in there.
Yeah.
And then she's like, yes, you are.
Yeah.
And then others said something, and he's like, but he's the only one who knows the town.
Yes.
So that makes me think Negan is actually from that town from back in the days, because he knew all the train stations and the roads. So I believe that Negan actually lived in that area. That's what I got from that.
Yes. Yeah, I think that's a fair assumption, really. Yeah, I think that's a fair assumption. And of course, when they went down into the underground metro station, however they term it, but it was clear Negan didn't want to be there, because he almost knew what the potential motive was, as we'll discuss. But they're walking along, he doesn't want to do it, but he's like the odd one out, so he's there.
Yes.
Exactly.
They all like walk past him and like bump into him with their shoulders.
I didn't
he
like
was
that.
He was an outcast really bad, and he didn't like that neither. And seeing him with a crowbar, something's missing. I miss Lucille, I'm not going to lie. We're used to that baseball bat in his hand, and then see him walk with a crowbar, it's like he's downgraded.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And of course, as they go through, and then we then see those body bags, which was a bit grim, really. And again, that reference to Acheron and the underworld, that darkness there, you can see the link there, because that did feel a bit eerie to me just watching it.
It did.
Yeah. And even
you already knew by the moment you saw those bags, you knew they were still alive in there. They looked, to me, my first reaction to the bags was, oh my God, they look like maggots. Yeah. Because they were squirming around.
They were. It was horrible. But yeah, Negan, even before, didn't he? He said, "Are you sure you want to carry on? Are you sure they're all dead?" And it was like, she was insistent, wasn't she? But he said a very interesting quote, which I wrote down, which was, "This is a death march, and you're the Pied Piper," which was referring to Maggie, of course. And so he almost knew that was what she wanted to, we don't know, she didn't really necessarily admit that, but
well yes, she did, in a way, because he said, what way it's going to turn out, I'm not going to get here out alive. And then he named Glenn, which that was a bad decision to make.
It was.
Getting punched in the face by Daryl immediately, which was also what happened in the circle when Daryl punched him in the face and got taken to Sanctuary. Don't know if you remember that, but when he said, I'll give you that one for free, and the next one who punches me in the face, then another person dies. And then Daryl punched him in the face, and that's how Glenn died. And now for Daryl to punch him back in the face was also, like, I thought, a little bit of a reminder of what happened.
Yes.
And then she said, I am not the woman that I was 6 years ago. The woman standing here before you is someone completely different. The woman I was 6 years ago is only a little bit left of her inside me, and it's the only one that's keeping you alive right now. Did not like that.
No.
At all.
Just a bit. I'm going to say something quite controversial, because there might be people that watch this that like her, but she came across as a bit of a bitch to me.
Yeah, she did. And then they were killing them bags, and one got out and grabbed the boy. And Negan saved him, which he did really unhandy, but he saved the boy.
Yes.
He didn't even got a thank you.
No, I know. And that annoyed me as well. So I was slowly getting
I was annoyed. I was like, you just saved your ass. And he's like, I'm not going to step another foot in this tunnel.
Yeah.
And then the other two dudes agreed with him and wanted to leave as well. And then Alden's like, oh, are you trying to be the boss? And I was like, hold up. Once you were a true follower. of Negan. So shut your mouth, because you're basically just as bad as Negan, because you followed him for years before you even got with Enid.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I was like, who the fuck do you think you're talking to?
Yeah, they're all ganging up on him, weren't they?
They
Really?
are. And then
Yeah.
they kill them bags, and I found it was really interesting that Negan said, like, what makes you think that place these bags is not still here?
Yeah.
And then thinking back on that other crew B, reprocessing.
Yeah.
Is this what happens with them if it goes wrong and they just throw them in a tunnel?
Exactly. It's those unanswered questions, but I think it's what gives the intrigue as a viewer, isn't it, when you're watching, because you start to piece things in your mind together of what could be. That could be what they're doing. Makes it a bit more dark. It adds that mystery to it.
We all know, because it's also the final season. We all know most of them are going to die. We know this. We know this up front. You don't even have to watch the show all the way through to know that.
Yeah.
And that's interesting, because what makes me think is, like, the way back, a little bit back before they went into the tunnel, when they were discussing to bring Alexandria to the Commonwealth to get supplies to help Alexandria out, the way how Maggie was pushing herself and her opinion that they had to do that to the others, it raises question marks, because Maggie used to be one that was like, let's just stick with what we have. So why does she wants to bring the certain people, which, if you look at the group that she's with, there's only 4 or 5 of them from our original travelers, to call them that way. And the rest are all them people from that community she found. So my question here is, why, Maggie, are you trying to convince everybody to go there, knowing there's 4 of us already there and not having a really good time? Which to me raises the question mark, who is the villain here? Because they keep talking about the Reapers, but are they the Reapers? Is Maggie the villain? Is it possible that Maggie is the way to doom?
She might have turned in that kind of period that she was.
Because we all know she went with Georgie to the Commonwealth, so she knows about stormtroopers and reprocessing. So what is she not telling the others? I think we need to keep a close eye on her. I think she is not, or pretending to be, who she's not. I think there's something wrong with her.
Yeah, I agree.
And I'm sorry for all the Maggie fans, because I read an interview earlier today, which was a Dutch interview about people who had watched the first episode, and people were all mad about Negan for leaving Maggie behind in the end. And they were all sticking up for Maggie, and I'm like, have you actually watched this episode very well? Because I don't think she deserves to be, like, found a hero right now.
It was interesting, and obviously, you brought up that point that at the end, we had that situation. I mean, we know that Daryl disappeared with Dog, because Dog found that kind of hole through, didn't he? And then Daryl kind of went, so we don't know where are they going to end up again, but then, of course, because the Horde was coming through, and they needed to get up, and of course Negan went before Maggie, because initially I was thinking, might be a gentleman and say after you, but he went, fair enough. And then, of course, she's then struggling to kind of hang on, and she looks at him, and there was such fear in her face in terms of help me, wasn't there?
I had a Lion King moment there.
The
Scar and Mufasa moment from the Lion King is exactly what I thought of when I saw that happen. And
so, I mean, I know I said this to you before we started recording, but I did think in that final moment of the first episode, that Negan was going to like offer his hand or something. I really thought. I mean,
I thought that too, because
yeah,
that would have been his way to redemption to her, wouldn't it be?
yes,
But we don't know what he's doing because we see him leave from the
yes,
train. But
yes.
is he crawling back to get something to help her up, or is he just leaving? We
Yeah.
don't know until next episode. Unless people have, seen trailers, then there might be an answer in that. But it's quite interesting because there is two sides to it. If he does help her, she's still not gonna forgive him about what he's done all them years ago. And if he doesn't help her, then we know that if she comes back, she kills him, probably, most likely. So I don't think either way he's safe, either if she's dead or not. Like, the only way Negan would be safe is if Maggie dies. That's how simple it is. I don't think he could do any good in Maggie's eyes, because Maggie is still too clutched to the situation of you killed my husband. And I'm thinking there's so many people that have lost so many partners, kids. I mean, look at Carol. She lost every damn kid that came around her. She just needs to stay away from kids. And she's just the only bitter one. Everyone moved on, but she's still bitter about what happened in season 8. But I also have a question. Where did the horde came from? Because everyone was in bags. So how the hell did that horde came in there? Like, it looked like they've been released. To me, it looked like they've been released in there.
It's a good point, because 2 of them scarpered, didn't they, with the ammo?
They did. Like, they knew something was gonna go down.
Yeah. So that is. But I guess the face-off that happened in Alexandria between Negan and Maggie, then you've got another face-off at the end in that moment. But his face, I mean, he's such a fantastic actor anyway. Like, love JDM, obviously. But his face at that moment when he looked at her, it was almost like, I'm going to leave you here. But you're right. I mean, he might grab something and go and help her, and that's just a way to hook us into the next episode. But at that point, it was like, you could just feel it. And I was like, oh my God, it did shock me. But of course, and I know you like JDM as well, but
I love him. He's amazing. I've met him and everything. He's got a special place on my arm, and in my heart. And it's just, I don't know, like, I had a little bit of a very hickey road with Negan if it comes to killing off Simon.
Of course.
Which I will never forgive him for that. But Negan, to me, he has redeemed himself to Alexandria. To me, you will never redeem yourself, Negan. You killed Simon. But like I said, I don't think he can ever do good in Maggie's eyes, whatever he does.
No.
Either what I think would be a possibility that she would not kill him is that in further down the line, they work together. Like, they get split up or separated from the group or something, and they have to deal with just them two together. That would be really interesting. Like, it's just them two, and they're basically trying to survive just by the both of them. They need to help each other out to stay able to stay alive. That would be interesting to see if that happens. I hope so. I find this episode had so many questions, and it was a big start. It was a big start after 1.5 years, because we had to wait longer due to the COVID situation in the world. That's why we had 6 additional episodes. But was it worth the wait? To me, it was, because I think they came back really strong.
I agree.
And I want to know more. It's just also a bitter pill to swallow, because now you're sitting here, at least I do, and it started, and I said to my husband, only 23 to go.
I know. When it's the beginning of the end, exactly like they put on the trailers, isn't it? Like the beginning of the end. And that, I think that is the thing, because it's been a part of our lives for so long.
It has been.
The Walking Dead family. So those that resonate with that know it is.
I mean, we met through The Walking Dead. Without them, we would have never met.
We did, exactly. Yeah, when I was crewing at Walker Stalker in London, and yeah, absolutely, yeah.
When 100%. My husband deleted pictures of my phone. No, it's
but times, yeah.
It's the beginning of the end, and I'm thinking, like, my house is Walking Dead everywhere, and I'm thinking, what am I gonna do after this? Like, I am legit worried that I will never ever get hooked on the show again, like I was with The Walking Dead. Of course, I am hooked in Snowpiercer completely. Yes. It's amazing. It's an amazing show. Season 3 just finished filming, and it's been renewed for season 4. So I am really excited for that. But The Walking Dead, it is so much more than just a TV show. I mean, out of my own experiences, the actors that I've met, the people that I've met, online, offline, real life, you name it, it's been such a big part of my life, as in positive, as in negative, as in emotional, as in happy. You name it. It's been a roller coaster. It's been a decade.
It definitely has, yeah. And I know that we're going to maybe talk about it in another podcast session potentially, aren't we, about the journey, so to speak, not only the Walking Dead journey, but our journey through the Walking Dead family and the connections. And definitely everything that you've said about it being a roller coaster. We met at the convention, but also Peggy, so my podcast, Two Peas in a Peggy podcast, Peggy was birthed from that as well. So that has great memories. So, and that stayed with me for part of the creative work I was doing. So it really, it's a lasting thing in our lives, isn't it? And again, those that resonate with it, that are part of the Walking Dead family, will know exactly what we mean by that.
Yes. I've already signed a petition. There's petitions going on.
Are there?
To let them make another season, because I'm not sure if I'm correct with this, but I read an interview or something, which that the actors and the directors and everyone that is working on The Walking Dead as we speak, and as we have in the past, nobody knew it was going to end. It seems like we got canceled because the numbers were dropping after season 8, when Negan survived, which everybody hoped he would die by then, by The Walking Dead All Out War. The numbers went down, and so I think it's not because there's enough material for them to go for another 4 or 5 seasons. Let's be honest. I think The Walking Dead got canceled because of the numbers wearing low. So everybody who was watching this, listening to this, share it around. Get those numbers back up, people, so we can have more seasons, because we can't have this to end. We can't. It's not possible.
The thing is, I do miss Rick. I have to be honest.
I don't. I don't.
Oh, so Rick was my Rick.
We have 3 films coming, but have they already started filming the first one? We don't know. I think that's been pushed back as well due to COVID. As far as I know, he's not been spotted on set for this season. But you know what? We never know what's going to happen, because we never knew we was going to get 6 additional episodes until a couple of weeks before it happened. So you don't know. They might do that. It would be interesting to see him back, but I don't think he would be really happy to know Negan's still alive.
No,
where the hell is Michonne? Like, we all know she's been looking for him, so has Daryl been. But I mean, Jadis, you're still there. What happened to you? Like, we all know Jadis went with the helicopters. Yeah. There's been rumors that Rick is in the Commonwealth. So it means Jadis should be there. But if we have 4 people already there and more coming, They should run into her at one point, shouldn't they?
Well, yeah, which might be a bit of that could be a good twist.
At least that's what I would think.
Mm,
because we still don't know where the damn chapters came from, but the only ones we know that have such a capability is the Commonwealth.
Yeah, I'd like to think that some of those questions are going to get answered in this series.
I hope so, because I will be really upset if not, and we're going to be left with so many questions after the season, which maybe they come into the films, the answers that we don't know, but it's I'm excited for Monday. I'm not going to lie, but I'm also going to be sad because there's only 22 left.
I know, it's one.
You know, they say it's like till April 2022, but then remembering we're already in the last part of 2021. So the summer's already gone. We're back into the fall within a month. So it looks like a very long way, but it's actually less than a year. And what's going to happen after? I heard there's a possibility of a Negan spin-off.
Are you still there?
I am.
Yeah.
Is there going to be a Negan spin-off?
I know the film's moving. I don't know if that's got anything to do with it, but it's so funny because you mentioned about 2021 and that's when it went. So let's not talk about this year. Not talk about 2020 or 2021. Let's just not do it.
But it's cursed.
But let's put it this way. We've watched enough Walking Dead. We're prepared to do anything like that. Put it that way.
Yeah. We would be. I mean, what would be your weapon of choice if we would ever become a zombie apocalypse?
I was thinking about this when I was actually watching this episode, so you must have been in my mind. I would
maybe
from a stylish point of view, I'd like to get on the old, the bow and arrow. But reality is, I don't know whether I'd be able to shoot it very well and aim it very well. I guess you learn as you go along with these things if it's essential for you surviving. But I kind of like that whole the gun thing as well. Just like.
See, I'm more of a close combat fighter, but also knowing that the blood can be, the blood is infected.
Yeah.
And it blinded Gabriel, which I would stay away from close combat and not do it because of the blood. But if I should choose the close combat thing, I would go with a barbed wire baseball bat.
Oh, you would? Yeah.
I would, and a knife, a really big knife.
Yeah, really big.
I don't think I'll be able to handle a gun. Maybe I would, but I'm Dutch. We don't have gun rides over here, so I've never held one in my life except for the fun fair. So I don't think I would be really good with one of those. But in all fairness, if we ever get into apocalypse, I'll be the first one to die because I'll panic.
No, you'll be fine. Just remember.
I'll just because I recently had the question, like, what if you're in your house and you're surrounded by a herd, you don't have any food supplies left. What are you gonna do? Are you sending your dog out to get the herd away from your house? So basically, someone asked me, would I sacrifice my dog Pike? I'd rather die.
Yeah,
I'm not sacrificing my dog. I can't.
I would not sacrifice a dog. No. And
maybe one of my kids when they're annoying. No, I'm kidding.
But not the dog.
No.
I mean, just looking at what's around me, I've got like a few pens. That would be my kind of like immediate to hand weapon, or this lamp here that I can.
The skulls are soft. You can stab a pen through that.
Yeah, true. Yeah. But
mine would be a lighter. I can set them on fire.
Yes. Well, I mean, there was another thing that I wrote down actually that I'd be interested to get your view on, because this was when they were in Alexandria, so before they went on that mission to the underground, when they were talking about it, and Maggie said something which made me think of the Whisperers, because she said, I have skin in the game too, because she was basically trying to say that she's now got a child like to protect, wasn't she? I thought it's quite an interesting phrase, but because she said skin,
I know what you're saying. Like she wasn't there for the Whisperer War, wasn't she? So
no.
And we know that there's been letters sent to her that told her about the Whispers. That's what made her come back. But I wonder if she actually had to deal with them because they're all been in the same area basically.
Yeah.
If they also had some whispers to deal with, because you can't tell me that all the time she's been traveling, she's not come across one of them. I mean, Eugene found them in a freaking ditch. So Maggie must have come across a couple of them.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's good to see Lydia fighting by their side
Yeah.
after everything that happened.
Mm.
Still wanting to know where Connie is at, as we've been teased. She's still alive.
Yes.
Daryl, just get rid of your damn dog because it's only nothing but trouble. But I get you. I wouldn't sacrifice my dog neither. We had these new people, like this woman and that dude with the beard. Like, I don't trust them. They're way too armored and they know more than we know. I think it's a setup. I think Maggie is setting them up, and that's. I'll eat my shoe if that's not the case. Let's be really careful with what I'm saying here, but something isn't right with her. Something is off in more than one ways. And seeing Negan trying so hard to be a part of the community by helping them build and recover ground and just building everything back up, which basically he was also one of the people who destroyed it. Don't name Glenn in your mouth again. That's a trigger. That's a trigger warning, Negan.
It is a trigger, and I do think with him, he has changed. He has kind of recompensed.
But has he really? Because he was kind of a dick down there too. He was hard as shit. And I thought because he was going against them, we saw a little bit of the old Negan back.
Yeah, I guess I can see where you're coming from.
He was rude as shit.
Yeah,
he was rude. He wanted to kind of look like he was trying to take over. And we had a glimpse of a little bit of the old Negan back, which I loved that.
Yes.
Sadly, he got punched in the face by Daryl because of it, but I think the old Negan is still there somewhere, and I think we might see him a little bit more in the upcoming episodes.
And I mean, I do get that, Maggie is going to be upset because of Glenn, because anybody would probably still hold some angst towards that.
Yeah, but neither did Rick. I mean, Rick was one of the first people that had all these grudges against him for all this time. I mean, because it's literally because he was focused so much on Negan that he didn't keep an eye on his own kid that Carl died.
Yeah.
It has everything to do with it. And he even kept Negan alive. He slit his throat, but he kept him alive. So if Rick is able to do that, why can't Maggie? Because Carl's not been dead that long as that Glenn has been.
Yeah, I do agree. And you mentioned about that when he slit his throat, because I thought
I cried. I screamed.
Yeah, I thought that was the end of him.
I did. Really, a lot of people hoped it would have been. Knowing what he would do next season, I hoped it too. But
yeah. But no, but exactly. But you're right. Saved him.
I was kind of surprised to see Rosita, because I honestly, and that's really bad of me, because I thought she was dead.
Well, she is a bit of a boring character.
I never liked her.
And the fact, she's with Gabriel, if she's still with him.
Yeah, that's just weird. I'm not gonna lie. I thought that just really weird. It's like a really weird combination. It doesn't sit. It doesn't match. But I thought she was dead. I thought she died in the Whisperer War. I don't know why I thought that, but I thought she did. So I saw her face, like, is that Rosita? And Miles was like, yeah. I was like, I thought she was dead. So
yeah. Well, I was going to ask you a question there. Which would you say is the weirdest coupling? And I know they weren't a couple, but they still did stuff together. But you probably know what I'm going to say. Negan and Alpha in the woods with the socks, or Gabriel and Rosita.
Oh, that's a hard one, because I don't like both of them. No, I think the weirdest one, knowing the story behind it, is because Negan only did it to kill her.
Yeah.
And we know because of the additional episode why he probably had feelings for Alpha, because Lucille was bald too.
Yeah.
I would go with Gabriel and Rosita, because Rosita was with whatchamacallhim? Abraham. Or was that Sasha? No, they both were. Damn. There's a lot of switching around with
Yeah.
Hasn't Rosita, no, wait, Eugene had hots for Rosita for a while.
Yes.
That's even worse than Gabriel.
Well, especially with his fake ponytail that's so obviously fake.
That bothers me so much. It does. No, I think Eugene and Rosita was worse, because Rosita is all about I'm gonna fight, and then he's like equals MC squared kind of shit. Like, we remember with the whole baby statuses that he's like that he pooped so many milliliters and kilos of poop. It didn't make any sense. He was caring more for that baby than its own mom did. He was measuring that baby every day, and it grew like so many millimeters, and all these statistics. I've not forgotten about that yet. And that was weird.
And he was perverting on Rosita and Abraham in that library, wasn't he? Back in one of the earlier seasons, he was like watching them getting jiggy with it, and it's like, hang on, Eugene.
And then Sasha has been with Abraham, and then they're dirty. There's been a lot of things going on in there. Like, I mean, Lori and Rick, and then Rick and Lori went with Shane, which Negan was still a better mom than Lori, pretty much. And then Maggie with Glenn we had, and then we had this Axel kind of like from the prison, kind of going hots for Carol. Carol and Daryl, I've never stood behind that, because Carol looked so much older than Daryl, and it looks she could have been his mom.
Yes.
And then Rick and Michonne, I never liked that couple neither. It didn't make no sense.
Rick and Michonne and the Shag Apple. You know, I just think, I don't felt like they ever fit together. Knowing from the comments, from the comics, knowing that he was with Andrea, which I would have never wanted to see that, because I never liked Andrea. But we had Andrea and the governor, of course. That was a weird one. Yeah. There has been. Maybe that's what we could do on another podcast, like, you know, the coupling. Look at the couplings.
I'm gonna write that down, actually, because there's been a lot of couples coming and going. I mean, Carol has been with a couple as well. They're all flags. If you look at that, if you look at in the time space that they're living on, when they went kind of fast. What I don't want to see, and that's something that's connecting to this season, is Maggie and Egan falling in love. That would be it. That would be the end of it.
I wouldn't want her touching Egan. No. Don't do it. But, you know, I must say as well, again, with this episode and the fact that they had that angst and everything between them, and I was starting to think, don't hurt Negan. I think the final episode of last season, which was one of the additional episodes, Here's Negan, was the backstory we were all waiting for, to find out why Negan was the way he was. And you know what? I have not cried at a Walking Dead episode since probably Scott Wilson Herschel's last appearance back in season 9, I think it was.
That made me tear up a little bit, only because Scott Wilson had, before the episode was launched, he did see it before he died.
Right.
And just because knowing that he just seen that episode and died shortly after that did shed a tear with me. That was one. I didn't really cry, but I had to swallow a little bit more. Yes.
I was tearing up. I really was. But Here's Negan was I actually, even though I like him as a character and I like the actor as well, this actually made me love the character more, because just knowing the backstory.
He was an asshole. He cheated on her, and we all saw that. But then knowing what he had to go through with his wife, and then everything that he's been through, and then being beaten up in like a bar, to get them medication, those chemotherapy sessions for his wife, and then coming back to what he came back to. That I did cry. Because the moment you see that door and it says "stay away" or whatever it was on the door, you knew she was dead the moment he was standing at that door, and you heard it. The music changed. It went like silence, and she just knew she was dead. But then to see her, she tied herself up on the bed with a bag over her head. And what I do wonder is, because at one point we see him sitting next to the bed drinking, he pulled the bag away from her head. How long has he been sitting there? Has that been the same day? Has he been sitting there for a couple of days thinking, I'm going to kill myself and I'm just going to be with her? Or what went through his mind? Like, that was a hard one. And I don't know if I discussed this with you before, but the guy who captured him in the bar and beat him up, do you know that's Joe of the Big Dick Brigade, who started working for him later on?
You did say, and I hadn't twigged on that, but he looked familiar to me. And then when you said it, it was like,
There was a couple of Easter eggs in that episode, which the bald and Alpha, which I clocked onto that. Joe and the Dick Brigade. Laura is the first savior that we've seen that he has met, which is surprising to me, because that even makes me think more that Sanctuary already exists and Simon was already in there. So I hope there's going to be a spin-off of Negan that's going to explain that story, and they're bringing Dwight and Simon and all of them back. And it's going to be explained, because I heard they're talking about it. If it's going to happen, we never know. I mean, this movie has still not been here. And the first movie we should have already had, I think, by the end of last year.
Right.
But then, of course, COVID probably messed that up. There's, in this episode that we just had, there was also a walker that was a reminder to me of a walker we had in season 2, which was the well walker. I don't know if you remember that one in the well, that they lowered Glenn in there, and there was this big blubbery walker in the pit. The one that Negan killed with his crowbar.
Like that,
He looked like the well walker, and he immediately reminded me of the well walker. And I am interested to know if next episode there's going to be more little memorizable items or things that has been happening in the past seasons, because I think that's what they're doing.
It could tie everything up in a way like that.
It looked like it. And then let's see what's happening. Monday there's a new episode, and I'm excited, and I'm sad, and there's so many emotions going through me with this last season, because it's the end. And I'm excited to know what's happening, and at some point I'm thinking I don't want to know, because I don't want it to end. It's like I want to watch it, but I don't, because if I watch it, it's going to be over at one point, and if I don't watch it, I know I will always have a season to still watch. So I am having double feelings with it.
Bittersweet. But final question for you then. Standout character from this opening episode, in your opinion?
The strongest one? I think Negan. Because we've seen so many emotions of him in this episode. We've seen a glimpse back of the old Negan. We've seen an emotional. You can clearly see that he does not feel at ease in this community, that he knows he's an outsider. We see him being treated as an outsider. And Princess, because she's one to reckon with. I think you never know what she's gonna say or do, because she's so different. She's so vibrant compared to all the other ones. She's the only one that's really colorful person.
Yes.
And she's, without actually knowing that she does it, like, she doesn't know she's doing it.
No.
She's giving answers or solutions, and
Yeah.
she doesn't even know she's doing it. So I think we need to keep a closer eye on her as well, because she was just laughing and having a joke about them stormtroopers.
Yeah.
But it ended into a solution of getting out of there.
That's right. Yeah.
So there is something about her that we need to take, a closer look to. And maybe that's something we could do after the series, is doing some episodes and take particular persons and just talk about them, about their growth, about how we met them, and how we've seen either they die or what they've become along the journey, like we've already did with Simon, of course. But to see how we met a person till the moment they either died or it ended somewhere, because there's really a lot of interesting characters we've been seeing, and she's one of them. And I think that she is smarter than she thinks that she is.
Yes, I would agree with that.
And I think she can be a really good asset in whatever is coming. I think she is going to be some sort of a secret weapon.
Yeah, because she strikes me that she is streetwise. She's got that streetwise element, but also
absolutely
that instance as well.
And they found her on her own, and she had dressed up all these walkers to make it look like the city was still alive. So there is something about her that she's capable of surviving on her own and having supplies for herself, and still be amused and seeing the beauty in a dead world, because she's still having fun.
Yeah.
They're locked up in nobody knows where, and she's laughing because, hey, they're sleeping together. That's his name, and that's that name, and they're talking about each other, and she's having fun. And I find that really interesting, because everybody's so dark and doom thinking and thinking about solutions and surviving, while she's just joking about and laughing and seeing beauty around her.
Yeah.
And
but finding the solution, as you say.
Yeah. Oh, also something I think we have not discussed yet, which I found very interesting, is Ezekiel, when he got the question, is there any cases of cancer in your family? We all know Ezekiel's got cancer. And he lied.
Yeah. Because potentially that could be giving away a weakness to them, I suppose, couldn't it? Because maybe anybody that's sick, I suppose they might, well, who knows, but more will come, I'm sure. But so what you're saying then, to pull it back to that, then crew A would be Negan as the standout, strongest character of the episode, and crew B would be Princess as the strongest.
Absolutely. Yes.
So obviously the next one we have is going to be part 2 of ACHERON. So we are going to then find out, do they get out of the underground? Our crew A peeps. What happens with Maggie? And then we've got crew B. Do they actually get out? Do they manage to escape? Does Yumiko stay? Can they convince her to go as well?
Any predictions for next episode? What do you think is going to happen?
See, part of me was thinking that Maggie's gonna fall, but then I think if she fell, that horde would be on her straight away, and that would be it. So I don't think that could happen. It
would be too quick after getting her back.
It would be too quick. So I think she's gonna make her way up onto the top of that train. There could be that twist. Negan might come back and help her, but I think she would do it, and then that's going to just make the tension even more big between them, because it's almost like, well, you didn't save me, but it's just that kind of rift between them, isn't it? And in terms of crew B, I don't know. Part of me thinks that Yumiko might stay because she is a minor character in that way.
I think they convince her to go with them. That they will say something along the lines, we need to tell the others and we come back and we'll go look for her. Because that's happened before as well.
Yeah.
And with crew A, I think that they're not going to get out of there quite yet. I think they're going to stumble upon something which is going to make them stuck there or something like that. Like there's something to it, because I'm still not sure. Like I said before, I think them walkers are not there just by coincidence. I think they've been set loose.
Yeah, that does sound a fair explanation. I would say that could be the case of how it all transpired. But yeah, and where's Daryl gone? You know, of course, where's
looking for his damn dog.
Yeah. So obviously, yeah, I mean, what we'll do is we will pick up another podcast discussion after we've seen that episode. So, you know, stay tuned. Those watching that haven't seen the first episode, apologies because we've spoiled it for you. But as I gave that warning beforehand, you know, you might want to come back and just watch this. And we're always keen to know what you think as well out there as viewers. And if you agree with us with Maggie and Negan, or if there's still some Negan haters out there, you know, we're just interested to get that sort of connection.
Yeah, I would like to ask the question for the viewers for this week. Did Negan redeem himself to you, and in your opinion? I would like to see comments on that question, so we can dig into that deeper in some other time. But yeah, that would be the question for this week, I think. Did Negan redeemed himself in your own eyes? And if so, why? And if not, then tell us why.
Yeah, that's good. Yeah, so drop your comments below. That would be great. And obviously we've spoken before this podcast as well about another idea, a separate podcast, because knowing that this is the opening episode of the final season, not that I want to keep reminding you, Reina, but you know, opening episodes can be quite impactful, as we know, but they can also be a bit slow to get started. We know that with this one they delivered on it.
They did. We had some slow ones before too.
Yeah, we have had some slow ones. So it might be that I put a post on social media to get just some feedback from people watching it of the best opening episode across all of the seasons. So, you know, from the last 10 seasons, because obviously we're talking about this one now. Some people might say, well, this was the best one. One of them that comes to my mind as I was writing the list is, of course, season 7, which was the moment that Negan did kill Glenn and Abraham, which was devastating. But I've never wanted to watch an episode, as sick as this sounds, so much, because I wanted to know who was going to die. I didn't know
that was
it was
so tense. Like for weeks. We've been also teased for weeks, wasn't it, with like trailers and everything on TV, and the social media was like making trailers and giving little clips of every character sitting in that circle.
Yes.
They did really do a lot of commercial and like trying to pop it up to make it interesting. And I agree with you. For me, that was the same too. And for final episodes, final ones, well, I don't really have a favorite final one or one that I think is worst. I think the worst episode, we all know by now, the people who know me, is episode 15 of season 8, which that's an episode I can't rewatch.
What happened in that one?
Yes, exactly. That's something I don't want to discuss because it's rubbing salt in my wounds.
For anybody who doesn't know, there is a podcast discussion that we actually did on this particular episode, because it involves the character of Simon, played by the wonderful Stephen Ogg, who is just amazing, who Reina knows and I have worked with him, and he is a delight. He is crazy, eccentric, funny.
He is something extraordinary, I would say.
Very extraordinary, but he has got a big heart.
One of the most down-to-earth persons you'd ever meet in your life.
Yeah, he's an amazing guy. But of course, on the show, he did meet his demise, which Reina doesn't want to talk about.
No.
It is sensitive. So check out the other podcast, because of course that was at the hands of Negan, the very person that was saying that we love now. So but there we go. But if Simon was still in it, of course it'd be a different story.
It would be. Sanctuary would be still alive, people.
Yeah.
In my opinion, I really think so.
But that's the thing, isn't it? You know, all the characters that we've kind of lost, or all the ones that have left or they've gone off to find themselves somewhere else, or, you know, other communities. And you think how things can actually, from making a decision, and we can apply that in our own lives as well, making a decision, it impacts where you're going to be and what happens next. So it could be a completely different story that we're seeing being played out now. I mean, if that kid, what was his name? Sam?
Oh, please.
If he hadn't gone, Mommy. Well, I mean,
that whole family would still be alive. You know, my husband had an interesting thing that he said. He's like, because we were also discussing about, you know, everything we've seen and everything we've been through with The Walking Dead. And he said there's only 2 that I never liked. And he says, I didn't like that season. And that was with Lizzie and Micah, that crazy little girl that started feeding walkers and killed her own sister. The one that look at the flowers kid. That was a crazy kid. Like, what happened to you in your life and you're so messed up? Like, he's like, he really liked, and he said that the whole governor story was dragged out way too long. So was Carl's death.
Yeah, and of course that one was sort of who is going to die, because of, again, the teasers that they were putting out with the bite marks. And
yeah, that was another one, exactly, that online and like with posters and trailers and teasers and commercials, they did so much about that. And there's so many All Out of War, they did the same thing, that when, you know, there's a couple of seasons that they done so much about. And there's a couple of seasons that I think some things have been dragged out too long, and which the governor was one of them. And I love David Morrissey, nonetheless, but his character at one point just got annoying. Like, as soon as whole Woodbury was down, it should have stopped, and not just getting him into a freaking caravan. It just didn't make any sense to me. But yeah. A roller coaster, like I said.
Definitely a roller coaster, and yeah, exactly. But that's the thing, isn't it? Because even though we've been talking about this opening episode of the final season, it takes us back to other moments in other episodes, because we're invested in those characters, and
we've watched them. They have been 10 years, more than 10 years of our lives. Let's be honest.
Yeah.
So everything we've seen and re-seen, because I like to rewatch it before a new season starts.
Yes.
And then when you do that and you have an episode like last week, with there's like the Well Walker that comes to mind, and what you said with the skins and the old Negan, there's so many points that takes you back in them 10 years. And I think that's like this whole season, whenever we're doing a podcast, and I hope it's going to be every week because of it's the last season, I think we're going to be looking back to a lot in the past, because I think this is what it is. And they doing that for a reason, just to remind us what have our heroes been through all this time, because not only for us it's been 10 or 11 years. Those actors some have been doing it from day one. I mean, Daryl's been doing it from basically halfway season 1.
Yeah.
You know, there's and Carol, she was there since season 1. And who else? Like, we're not having a lot left from season 1. And then Judith was never known the normal world. She was born in the apocalypse.
Exactly.
So it's so interesting, and we've lost so many, and we've put other ones in our hearts that came in. And there's other ones we still hate since they came in. I'm not saying anything, but it starts with an M. But it's like a love-hate relationship, really. Is it not? Like your fear for certain characters, at the same time you don't like them. So it's such a it's so different.
It's no, it's good though, because it shows the strength of that actor to portray a character in such a way that you
absolutely
despise them, because you believe that is that because they're playing that role, but you fully believe and invest in that character.
And I think there's one person, and I hope he ever watches this episode. I have to give credits of being one of the best villains in The Walking Dead to Xander Berkeley as Gregory.
Yes.
Because everybody hated him.
Yes.
And that's when you know he played his part really, really, really well. To be hated that much that he still gets that hate. You've done a really good job, sir. I salute you.
But even when he was up against Simon, and it's almost like, you know, Simon's got that kind of more superior, he's that more superior figure. So you'd think, oh, you'd be feeling sorry for Gregory and hating Simon, but actually no, Gregory was still, you know, come on, get some balls, man. You know, it was that kind of thing.
I kind of was like, that was a wrong move, Gregory, but you know what, I'm not going to say nothing, but you shouldn't have done that because you were on the floor. He was on the floor within seconds. But yeah, like, if there's one character that had more hate than any other character in The Walking Dead, it must have been Gregory. And to be able to pull that off, like, I know, you know, Simon's had a lot of hate, and so has a couple of others, but to be able to stand above that also in daily life and not let that bother you, that's I find that amazing. I find that really strong, and it's just, you know, all credits to that.
100%. Well, I've really enjoyed our discussion. It's been great, and obviously, yes, let's keep it going, because we want to honor the Walking Dead final season, and we want to get together, and of course we'll cover the episodes. I think you're absolutely right, it's going to take us back just like it's done today, but also we'll do a separate one which is on the opening episodes. So I'll see if I can get some feedback from people on social media, and maybe those of you watching this, comment below favorite opening episode. You know, we'll see what we get, and then we can just talk about them, or we can just cover them next time very briefly, and just kind of, you know, go for that. But that season 7 one, I think, is a standout one, isn't it?
Also, if there's any subject you want us to talk about, which is according to The Walking Dead in any season at all, just comment it below, and we will cover that question and when we can.
Definitely. Yeah, that's great. Absolutely. Lovely. Well, and we'll look at character arcs as well, because that was the other thing that we said, wasn't it? So how the characters have grown throughout the series. But thank you so much, Reina. As always, you know, it's been a pleasure, and we've got that shared love of The Walking Dead. So it's really great. We're both creatives, you know, from a writing point of view. I also enjoy watching The Walking Dead and other series, and really kind of watching it as a viewer to enjoy it, but then having that kind of analytical head on, thinking, how have they done that? How have they created that in terms of the script and everything? And I know from your point of view, being a fellow creative in terms of an artist and an actor yourself, it's kind of, then you can see it from that side of things as well. So I think that just brings the depth into the conversation. Absolutely. And where we can go in future podcasts. So yeah, I really appreciate your time. Thank you to everybody for watching, and yeah, please do, you know, like, share, subscribe. Really appreciate your support. It just gets it out there, and it gets things moving. We know with YouTube and algorithms that it just helps it move around to more viewers. So really appreciate it. Any last words from you, Reina?
Don't forget to share, subscribe, and comment below.
Brilliant. Well, thanks everybody for watching, and we will see you next week. Take care.
We'll see you next week.